Hey everyone, welcome to the main event. Today is Tuesday, June 6, 2023. Another beautiful day outside, and I'm sitting here talking to you people. And I'm happy to be doing that. It's currently 3:04 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks for joining me. Middle of the day, middle of the afternoon, or early evening if you're on the East Coast at 6 p.m., or 6:04 I should say, and 10:04 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, which is just shy of 11 p.m. in London. And no, I don't put all the times in there because it just takes up too much room on my promo. So welcome everyone. Glad you could make it, and thank you for your support as always. I know I got a lot of faithful subscribers and listeners that tune in every day, and I really do appreciate you guys. You have no idea how much I do appreciate you. So so if you don't know who I am, you just found this channel by chance, which does happen quite a bit actually. Don't know who I am, what I'm doing here behind this microphone in front of this camera. I am a 20-year hair transplant veteran or industry veteran where I've been working with top clinics worldwide for 20 years as of this year. And it's been a hell of a ride, but I'm also a patient 10 times over. I had two really bad hair transplants in the early 90s, and that set the stage, unbeknownst to me at the time, for the rest of my life. And the first 10 years, or I'd say the first 9 years after those first two hair transplants, didn't affect me the way that it did after my repair. The first 9 years was me trying to get through my 20s, trying to find myself like everyone else does. And on top of that, I was having to deal with two bad hair transplants. And what did that mean? Well, it meant that I had a very pluggy hairline, and finasteride wasn't really a thing widespread at the time, and minoxidil was still kind of low on the radar. So I had no real hair loss prevention regimen, so I kept losing hair. By the time I was 24, 25 years old, I was a Norwood 4, which means that the front was gone and the back was opening up a little bit, still had some hair in the middle, in the anterior mid-scalp region. But I did have a hairline. In fact, I did have hair maybe 3 inches into my hairline, or my hairline went about 3 inches back, but it was made up of what I lovingly refer to as ant legs on growth hormone, because they were very thick, they were very wiry, and they looked very unnatural. It looked like barbed wire was sticking out of my... That's a good description. It looked like barbed wire was sticking out of my forehead. And bad angles, bad direction. Nothing was good about it. And it took 9 years for me to get to the point where I was about a Norwood 6.5, roughly. And I got my first repair surgery. And that set the stage for the rest of my life, where hair loss and hair restoration became my life. It became my profession. It became my passion. It has taken me all over the world many times. Not entirely around the world, but I've been to Asia, I've been to Europe, I've been all over the States, of course, where I'm from, and it's going to be taking me to the Far East at some point, not fairly soon, but maybe soon. We'll see how that works out. South America, and it's all because of clinics, doctors, and organizations that want to have something to do with this brand. And what does that mean to you or for you? Well, it means that these clinics that want to be a part of what I do, they do go through a screening process. And it's not just me looking at pretty pictures on the internet just like everyone else does. I actually use my clinical background, my clinical experience, and my picky eyeballs to determine whom I think is worth considering. And then they're admitted. I make a video about them based on my journey to their clinic, or at the very least, content that they provide that I can make a video about to introduce them to you. And in exchange, they do pay a monthly fee for such services. And and I'm very open about that. But I am picky, and I don't just accept anyone. I could easily accept a lot more people than I already have. I do get applications on a fairly regular basis, but they just don't meet the criteria. So that's what I do. So who I am, and as far as this broadcast goes. I'm simply sitting here answering your questions based on my own experience in the industry, based on my observations of different clinics and how they do things. Most of them I know, some of them I don't. And it's getting tougher to be able to share commentary on different clinics because there's so many new clinics opening. I used to know all of them. In fact, I used to know all of them, at least having met or spoke to someone in one of the clinics back in the day at some point. But now there's just way too many clinics out there. I'm constantly seeing new names. Every week I see a name of a new clinic that I've never heard of, and they're usually pretty new. And it's a really fast growing industry. I used to say for better or for worse, but now it's for worse because there's nothing good coming out of all these new clinics. There are some clinics I'm seeing that have been around for a while that I may not have seen before. There's actually a few clinics I'm eyeballing now just to see what they're about because I am interested in new clinics. I like finding new clinics that are gems. I don't like using that phrase, but it's always exciting to me to see potential good work coming out of a clinic that I've never seen before. So anyway, enough of that rant. Today is Tuesday, June 6, 2023, and it is a call-in show, people. So the lines are open. You can give me a call toll-free in North America at 1-833-563-4247 or worldwide using the calling app of your choice. And until I get that first phone call, let's see if there's anything in the chat room. Hey, I see some great people in here. Graham, what's up, buddy? Hair Boutique. Hello, Hair Boutique. Broaderbond 60, you're in the room. Sugar Ray, you look new to the chat. Never seen you before. I'm 57 in August. Congratulations. I wondered if it's too late to improve my hair with a transplant. Who are the best clinics in the UK and Europe? It is not too late to improve your hair with a hair transplant, but I would say to you, my friend, or ask of you, have you done everything but surgery so far? Have you started some sort of medical regimen to prevent further loss? Have you been using it enough to see if it's stabilized your loss, to see if you're reacting positively, which does not necessarily mean growing more hair or regrowing hair. It just means no more loss or no more perceivable loss. If that's what you've done, then you can consider surgery. But surgery is the last resort. Give everything else a chance to do what it purports to do based on evidence for you to even start taking it. But as far as who's the best in Europe and the UK, only you can answer that based on your observations, but meaning that the first thing that you need to do is start understanding what constitutes a good clinic based on your criteria. And you have to establish what your criteria are first. And before you do that, you have to learn about the different types of hair transplant surgery. What dictates naturalness? Why is it important? Why is it important to you, or why should it be important to you? Excuse me. And then you can start determining who those clinics are for yourself. I'm a big believer in self-empowerment. And that's part of why I do what I do, where I constantly get the question, based on the doctors I work with or on my website, hairtransplantmentor.com, who do you recommend out of those clinics? I don't. I've done the groundwork. I've done the grunt work for you. It's up to you to choose. If you want to choose a clinic I work with that I have reviewed, that I have run through the mill as it speaks, or so to speak, then there's your choice right there. There's 15 top docs, worldwide top docs. There are others out there for sure that I don't work with, but educate yourself. Take some time, and you're welcome to give me a call, 1-833-563-4247, and we can talk about it. We can talk about what's important to look for. Which reminds me, right before I went on the air today, pardon me, I was posting a link to the show on a Facebook group, and I was reminded I made a comment on someone's post, I think it was yesterday, when I was posting a link to the show, and they had posted a link to, or they made a comment in relation to a post that they made saying it looks like, and I'm paraphrasing here, it looks like taking seeds or pumpkin seeds or something having to do with pumpkin seeds is growing hair. And I said, no, it's not. And I just kind of left it at that. Partially to kind of create a little controversy, just to get some eyeballs, because I think it's an interesting conversation to be having. And that was yesterday. So I came back in to post a link for today's show and to see if there's any questions I could answer. And they had responded saying, again, paraphrasing, how so? And then they followed up a few hours later, still waiting on an explanation. It's like, hold on. It's like, I don't live on here, so be patient. So today I decided to take some time to look at the study, and it wasn't a study that was being linked to. It was a video of someone narrating the summary of various opinions and one study in particular. I think it was performed in 2014, 9 years ago. And I got to say, right off the bat, the narration was extremely annoying. It was really... Anyway, so I looked at it, and I looked at the study that they were citing, and it was like 76 participants in the study, and I'm just reciting some numbers off the top of my head. 40% improvement on the treated group, and 10% improvement on the placebo group, which is actually fairly significant for a placebo group to have improvement over the course of 6 months, 24 weeks. 24 weeks? 6 months? Yeah, roughly 6 months. And what I noticed, well, let me pull it up actually. What I noticed in this study was it says, it's on hindawi.com. It was a Korean study. And so I looked down at the bottom of the study, and it says conflict of interest. It says the authors declare that there's no conflict of interest, and that's fantastic. I love seeing that. But then right below that, it says acknowledgments. This study was supported by a grant from Dream Plus Company Ltd. in 2012. Okay, you don't generally see that, or at least I don't notice things like that usually. But I noticed this one. So then I kind of scrolled up. I was like, okay, well, what is, okay, well, let me go back to see what they actually used in this study, because it wasn't pumpkin seed oil only, which is what I discovered when I looked a second time. And what was it? Did I lose it? No, hang on. Yeah, so the product, it wasn't just pumpkin seed oil that they used. They actually used a supplement called Octa Sabal, OCTA space SABAL. And it's like, okay, well, why didn't they just use pumpkin seed oil? And so I went to their, I looked them up online, and I found tradekorea.com, and it's got different products that are being traded out of Korea. And here is Octa Sabal. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. And it's the whole shebang about the actual product. And so then it says ingredients: pumpkin seed oil, mixed vegetable powder, evening primrose powder, red clove powder, tomato powder, corn silk. Seems odd to be in a study, and it's supposedly pumpkin seed oil, but it's got all these other ingredients with it. And then I kept looking at this product, this product page, It says company introduction. It says, "Hi, I'm Mun Seok Choi, CEO of the Sirona Company. Our sales partner is Dream Plus One Company." Dream Plus. Well, wasn't that the name of the people that made the contribution to the study? So anyway, the point is that it was a completely biased study. That can't be called a study. I question all these types of natural remedies. Not to say that there isn't credence to natural remedies, but there is yet to be found a natural remedy, quote unquote, that is as effective as our baseline requirements of finasteride or even minoxidil, especially in oral form. And so I shared this on that post as my explanation, along with the fact that some of the results that they showed in this quote unquote study, where they had photographic results, the patients, at least two of the patients that they presented, actually three, sorry, were not suffering from androgenetic alopecia. They clearly had alopecia areata. So in a couple of cases, it was quite bad. And they do not respond, those types of cases do not respond from 5-alpha reductase inhibitors or inhibition, the way that patients of suffering from androgenetic alopecia will respond to those. So I question everything about the study if they're misleading the reader by showing for visual impact, showing alopecia areata. I'm talking that almost looks like alopecia totalis or universalis. Like on one patient, there's like a quiff of hair, and that was it. Like just in one spot, no hair anywhere else. So it's things like this that I think are not just misleading, but they offer false hope. They're in my opinion ineffective across the board. There are some outlying cases, but you guys need to be careful when you're looking to anonymous people presenting this type of information as if it's factual. And then, of course, questioning and challenging people that question that narrative, like I was, asking me to... it could have been a genuine request for me to explain what I mean. I don't know. It seemed kind of pushy, but it is what it is. I mean, you got to question everything. Always look at who the people are doing the studies, and if there's some sort of acknowledgement of a contribution, and then what that who made that contribution, what do they have to do with maybe the study itself, aside from having made a contribution. It's all questionable. It's all stuff you need to look at closely. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It was kind of a funny little thing that happened before we went on air today. It just happened 45 minutes ago. So yeah, anyway, like I said, it is a call-in show, people. Make sure I'm plugged in here. Yep, plugged in. The number's toll-free in North America. It's 1-833-563-4247. I'm not going to sit here all day, people, waiting for you to call. I will answer a couple questions in the chat room, but the point of this is to be a call-in talk show. And I'm happy to be here for the full 2 hours as long as phone calls keep coming in. Yesterday was a great show. Lots of great phone calls coming in. Unfortunately, my video had frozen, which happens every once in a while. Not sure why it happened, but the audio was fine, so we kept going. We pushed through. Phone calls kept coming through, and great discussion, great dialogue going on. We had Carolina, who's in the chat room almost every day. She called in with a great update on her husband and why they think that he was actually starting to lose hair. And it's because of a thyroid supplement that had been prescribed for general health. His thyroid activity was fine, but their doctor had prescribed a thyroid supplement to increase his metabolism, and then increased it, and that actually caused hair loss, which is interesting. All right, got a call. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe, this is Gypsy from Los Angeles.
Gypsy, I thought it was you. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. You know, haven't called in quite a few days. I think it's been a week.
At least a week. At least a week. And we welcome your call anytime. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I started feeling nostalgic.
Right on.
Yeah. No, well, you know what? Believe it or not, I'm waiting for my barber, so it's very apropos that I'm calling, right?
Okay.
Getting a haircut. But I was listening to what you were saying about the pumpkin seed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I've heard that before, too, and I've heard, like, yeah, there's some evidence and this and that, but it's very interesting to me. I think we all pretty much go through this process of like hoping that there is that magical that somehow no one has really discovered, but it's somewhere in there hitting. You know, the natural thing that you're just going to rub the onion on your head and you know it's gonna do miracles. I think that what you were saying is very on point. That you know, there's all these biases, there's all these things, and you know, if they do this with serious science, I mean, I agree with you. You have to approach everything with like really serious skepticism. You know, especially on things that are very dubious. I mean, they do that all the time with just regular pharmaceuticals, or even just with with scientific studies. You know, data can be manipulated. Statistics can be, can be presented in a way that supports a case. And you know, if serious, real scientists are doing this, imagine people who are just trying to, sell you the hope of this natural remedy.
Of course, and you know, it's always interesting. Like I learned this a long time ago that first off. The idea that if you do your own research, if you look hard enough, you'll find evidence for something that very few people have figured out, and you'll be able to cinch this hair loss thing. The idea, like at the very beginning of one's research, if they start looking for evidence here and there that's anecdotal at best, and they get excited, I understand that, I really do. But if you've been doing your own research for any respectable amount of time, just a minimum of a few months, I think that if you believe that you're going to find something that very few people have actually caught, like say that I've considered finasteride, read the side effects, and that's all BS. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff. I don't believe in putting hormones in my body. I've heard that one so many times, it's crazy. You're not putting a hormone in your body, but but that's what they say. And I'm going to find the natural route. When people think that they can actually do that and find the quote unquote natural route, and that it's actually going to be effective for long term, as if no one else has ever thought of this before. Naive is being nice. To say they're naive is being generous. It's, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. I'll just say it's being naive at best. But I'm constantly. Well, I'll say I never cease to be surprised at how many people not only believe that, but they will vigorously defend it.
Yeah.
Almost militant style.
Oh yeah. Well, I think. Look, this is not exclusive to hair loss, but I think it happens in all areas of life.
It does.
Once they present a nice package, once you buy into the ideology, and sometimes like the most intelligent people, I mean, we fall prey for it sometimes because, when I used to do sales training, we always used to train salespeople. It's like, look, everybody's going to buy an emotion, so you better sell to the emotion, don't sell them the facts.
Yeah,
because that's the way it is. Marketing is all about emotion, and either you're selling a product, you're selling yourself, or you're selling an idea.
You don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle.
Exactly.
I've been through that training, my friend. I know it all. I know it all.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and that kind of relates a little bit to also, I've heard a few calls, without pointing to anybody in particular, but I've heard a few calls that you've gotten, especially in the last few weeks or so, where some people state that, hey, no, I want to do everything natural and this and that. And I relate to that position in the sense that I used to have more of that, frame of mind. But one thing that I think we're also forgetting is that, well, most medicine comes from natural, natural raw resources, number one. But number two, also, just because it says natural or just because someone presents it that way, that doesn't mean that it's exactly the healthiest thing.
Well, cyanide is natural.
That way. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? You beat me to the punchline because, potassium is natural, and that's what they use for, to execute death row inmates. They just overload the system with potassium, and that's it. They're gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I started my journey and my first consultation, and I don't know if you remember when I first called that, I told you I had a consultation actually in Mexico with a doctor.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I think I do.
And even though he wasn't the greatest, I wasn't going to go with him. I was there and I took the opportunity just to have the consultation. But he did say a couple of things that were on point, and one of the things that he says is like, look, we can do the transplant, but you're gonna have to take finasteride and minoxidil for the rest of your life. And at that stage, or at that time, I was still like, I'd rather not put medicine in my body as much as I can. I still try to avoid that. Sometimes I have a headache and I don't even take a pill for it. But just taking a step back and looking at things a little bit more objectively is like, well, look, yeah, that's great that you want to keep it as natural as possible, but we have science for a reason, and the good science does do a lot of good in the world, and sometimes the natural stuff is not as natural as you think. I mean, I can also attest to that. One time I had an infection on a tooth. I went on the internet, put some garlic in there, and it'll take care of the infection. You don't need to do blah, blah, blah. It ended up burning a little hole into my gums because it's so strong. It was so natural. So I had to get that fixed afterwards.
But it was an all-natural hole in your gums. That's a difference.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
No, I completely, I get that, and I understand it. And look, I really like the natural approach to a lot of things. But it's not, it doesn't work for everything. Or if it does work for some things where you wouldn't expect it to, it doesn't work as well as a product that's created specifically for that, such as finasteride. There's the people that want to take saw palmetto because it's all natural, but and then they start taking enough say that 10 times fast, right? Saw palmetto. They take enough of it to where it actually can help fight hair loss, and it is a DHT inhibitor, a natural DHT inhibitor, but you have to take a lot of it to equal the effects of what you get with finasteride. And guess what happens when you take enough of it to fight hair loss?
You also have the potential of getting the same side effects. Exactly,
which shows us that it's not the unnatural medication causing the problem. It's the process of DHT inhibition itself that causes the side effects. natural or not.
Correct.
So
yeah, and
yeah,
and you know what? In some cases, just because it's natural doesn't really mean that it's safe, because you can very easily also have some adverse side effects from natural stuff just by taking too much, thinking that it's safe. Oh, it's natural. I can take so many thousands of units of this and that and the other. I mean, when I started taking biotin. My doctor, my primary physician, recommended it. And then I realized that she didn't know what she was talking about, because I did the research and it was like, look, you have enough biotin in your body, and if you put more, you're probably just going to have your kidneys or your liver work a little harder just to get rid of the excess.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I remember when biotin first came on the scene as far as it didn't come on the scene as a hair loss treatment originally. It came on the scene as as something to improve your hair, just the overall quality. And that was around, it was been around for a long time, but I'm talking about the way people were talking, or when people started talking about it publicly online en masse as just this thing that you did in the late mid 2000s, around 2007-ish. I remember that.
Right.
Before that, people were talking about MSM, partly because of me and another guy that was online that I knew personally offline. He used to go by the name Futzy Head as his handle. And he's the one that turned me onto it. He was the very first one that really started talking about MSM for hair quality on the forums, back when the forums were so relevant. And
is that the guitar player?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have been around a while. Yeah, he used to play guitar, and he, or you heard me talking about where he said that his nails would grow faster, and he could pick his guitar strings better. Was that
right?
it?
I did. In fact, and that caught my attention because I actually play guitar myself and play with my fingernails.
Yeah. And he said that his hair was growing twice as fast, his nails were growing twice as fast, and his nails were stronger as well. So that helped him with his picking, and over time, over the course of a few years, people started to incorporate that into their list of things to fight hair loss. And I saw it, and I was like, "What? Why are people saying MSM for hair loss? Where the hell did that come from?" And I realized that it just kind of morphed. Someone misunderstood and started talking about it. It's like, no, it's not what it does. Well, it's not what it does. And then they're like, well, take it to fight. And then the other myth was Propecia and MSM to fight shock loss. No, it doesn't. It's like, I don't know where these ideas come from. I really don't.
Well, you know what it is? It's the Dumb and Dumber effect. That's what it is. Because when Jim Carrey's character asked him, what kind of a chance do I have with you? It's like 1 in a million.
So you're saying I have a chance?
It's not what exactly. It's not what people are saying. It's
so they're saying there's a chance. That's one of the best. That's one of the best lines in modern cinema history.
Exactly.
I'm not saying 1 in 10. I'm saying 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so good. I think I read that was ad-libbed as well. It wasn't really written into the script. It's just that's the way that it flew. Right. So he was so good in that. That's one of my favorite movies from college.
They're genius.
So anyway, things good with you?
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah,
they're good. Things are progressing. I mean, I've taken my time with everything that I've talked to you about. I mean, it's worth to mention that, I was considering Juan Couto as one of the doctors.
Who?
Couto.
Oh, Couto. Spain. Yeah, Juan Couto.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think I dropped him from my list.
Why?
His pictures are amazing. His results look very nice.
His videos are amazing.
But they are, no doubt about it. I happen to have the advantage that Spanish is actually my first language. And so I also sometimes have delved into like the Spanish forums, where you actually find a lot more information about him in the Spanish forums than in the English-speaking ones. There's usually not that much in the English-speaking ones. And there's actually one channel on YouTube of one guy from Spain who it's kind of like similar to your case when you started. He had two really bad surgeries, but his are so bad that he's not repairable. I mean, it's that bad. He went to Turkey once. You know, they messed him up, and then he made the mistake of going back. They promised that they were going to repair him, and they destroyed him even further. So he has a channel, and he tries to do more like exposing, you know, like the bad clinics, the bad doctors, and all this stuff. He's gotten a lot of,
I think I've seen this guy. I don't remember specifically, but his story sounds familiar. Can you do me a favor? Can you do you follow me on Instagram?
I do.
Do me a favor. Can you send me a link to his YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'd like to have a look at his case. Yeah.
Yeah. So he I think the last thing he did was like micropigmentation to try to see if that would help. He uses a lot of topic and everything, and he does pretty good analysis of the cases, and he usually presents cases where it's like someone got messed up. But he is a little bit of a fanboy of Koto. And
wait a minute, is this the guy? Hang on, is this the guy that talks about bad clinics? Like people will have a bad experience, and he'll go and he'll actually like attack the clinic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all done in Spanish though.
Really? Okay. Maybe
it's all done in Spanish. Yeah. No, there's a few. There's a few around, but this guy does it all in Spanish. He's from Spain.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but he has stated in his channel, it's like, oh, the number one doctor is this guy and this guy and this guy, right? And not too long ago, he presented one case where this guy went to Kyoto, and he was not satisfied, and he presented it, and from the before and after, I think they shouldn't have touched it because he kind of already had a destroyed donor. They still went in there and tried to, I guess, repair him or something to that effect.
This is a different guy, or the guy that runs the YouTube channel?
Yeah, no, this is a different guy. So the guy on the YouTube channel presented this case about this other guy who went to right, and I think they shouldn't have touched him, honestly, from the beginning. And the guy doing the channel is the first time that I've seen that he tried to justify Kyoto for the results. And I was like, yeah, no. And then I started digging a little bit more into like other people who have commented or they know from that side of the world. And they say, well, yeah, of course he always shows excellent results because he only works on Ferraris. He's not going to take like a Honda. And so what I got from that is that he takes guys who are not really that far gone, and then he does his job to make it look really nice, but he won't take like the more challenging cases.
And you know what? I understand that, and this may be controversial to some people. I don't know, but I don't see a problem with that.
I don't either, but one of the reasons why I'm no longer considering him because I am not a 3.
Because you're not one of those cherry pick cases.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you may look at me and think that I'm a Ferrari, but really, I'm just a salvage car. You know,
I'm a salvage title.
Right? Exactly.
I'm a flood car from Miami with a salvage title.
That's it. Chop, chop. You know.
There you
go. I mean, eugenics classified me as a 4B. I actually think that I'm closer to a 5. All right, but that's how they classified me. So I'm like, well, if this is his MO, then that might not be the right doctor for me. Besides that, he has a long list and all that stuff, and you know, his pricey too. But I I started considering one of the doctors that works with you actually for many reasons. Because I like his results, his naturalness, and that's Dr. Nussbaum.
I don't know why, but I thought you were going to say him. I thought you were going to say Aaron Nussbaum in Miami.
Yeah, and he seems to work on people that have like similar hair to me. Not only that, he's one of the few people. I meant to ask you before, but you kind of addressed that in some of the shows. That is like, oh, he uses the robot, and it appears that he does it really well. And I've also seen his like strip as far as the linear scars, and I really like the way he works that too, because
and
one of the
and when he does the robot, like he uses the robot in cases where he feels it's justified, but even when he's using the robot, he will usually augment the result or supplement the result with some manual FUE work as well, because the robot can't go like all over the scalp on every patient with ease. Some patients are still a little bit more complicated for it, so he'll pick up a punch and he'll go to work and do So he knows how to evaluate a case and approach it based on its own merits, which is one of the things I like about him.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that I like his versatility and attention to detail, and also look. Sometimes you have to use a Phillips screw. Sometimes you need to use a hammer, and sometimes you need to use some nails. And it seems like he has that comprehensive, tool belt. Yeah. And funny enough, because way before when I started my research, there's been a couple of times that I've been saved just by hesitation. One of my clients, his cousin, knows one of the companies that makes all these machines, the robots and everything, right? And when we started talking about this, he's like, "Oh, you should talk to my cousin. He did 3 transplants already." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, he did them for free." I'm like, "Whoa, how does that work?" He's like, "Well, he knows the company, and they're always looking for people, and they're giving out free hair transplant because they want to try the machines." Like the new machines that they're rolling out, they need people. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I'm like, and how does his hair look? He's like, oh, well, I guess we don't know because he shaves his head off.
Yeah. Because he keeps seeking out these free hair transplants where these clinics are taking in the whatever machine they're taking in, and they're training someone how to use it. So that was dumb.
And I did ask him, like, hey, can he hook me up? I mean, like, these are the companies that are making the robot, the machines, and before they offer them to the doctors, that's when they get all these people. And he's like, yeah, we'll give you a free transplant. And so that sounded really juicy at the beginning. I'm so glad that they never connected me with that, because it was around also COVID, and they said, oh no, they said that they stopped the trials right now because of COVID. I'm so glad that never happened, because I probably would have jumped on that.
Yeah, you missed a potential bad situation. So good. Yep. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent.
But yeah, everything else okay.
Well, good.
I'll let you go so you can take some more calls.
Right on. And, well, good hearing from you.
My barber got here.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy your haircut, and we'll talk to you some other time. Okay. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, and I'll send you that link.
Oh yeah, please do. Thank you so much.
All right. No problem.
All right. Bye-bye. Toll free 1-833-563-4247. Lines are open, and it's toll free in North America. And of course, you can call worldwide using the calling app of your choice. It's always interesting to hear about doctors that don't really have any sort of affiliation with anyone. Like you can't cross-reference them with some sort of organization that's actually done, got some sort of connection to them, such as the one that Gypsy was talking about. And knowing some doctors that I know in Spain, in Portugal, and doctors that are in the know about different doctors, I hear things. And I won't go into details, but I hear things about about the doctor that Gypsy was just talking about. And Yeah, I can't go any further than that, actually, but you hear things from other professionals that supposedly know different people, and yeah, anyway, I feel like maybe, look, I'll say it like this. Any superstar doctor, I gotta be careful about this, any superstar doctor that you hear about and everyone starts losing their minds about, something that they're doing, I don't care what the evidence is. I don't care how good they look on their YouTube videos, their website, 15 different anonymous people on every discussion board talking about them as if they can do no wrong. Eventually, you'll find out that they can do wrong. You'll find out that they're human and that the hype rarely, or actually it never lines up with reality. I learned this about, a couple of doctors, even a few years ago before anyone was talking about how, maybe he's not perfect, or, all doctors are human. You gotta take that into account. Yeah, I learned this quite a while ago about some of these guys, and never believe the hype. I just gotta say that. Every clinic out there has, if they've been performing surgery for a number of years, long enough to get a great reputation, there are numerous people out there that disagree with that great reputation. You may not hear from them. You may not hear about them, at least not for a while, but someone eventually steps forward, and then others come out of the woodwork as well. And I'm not saying, and it's not to say that any negative or all negative commentary is legitimate. I saw one recently about a doctor I know that I know for a fact the information is, I'll say, selective at best about their supposed bad experience. And you guys the point is, you guys just have to take everything with a grain of salt. Great reputations, when people are speaking so well about a clinic, take that with a grain of salt. Bad comments, negative experiences in reviews, even if they're showing pictures that maybe don't look so great, take it with a grain of salt. One of the things that I don't understand, well, I do understand, but I don't understand why it isn't called out more, is when someone has, say they have a pretty bald scalp. Let's throw a number out there. Say they're a Norwood 5A, where the crown is still fairly intact, but the top all the way through the hairline is pretty much gone. And they go in, they get, say, 4,000 grafts. And then they come back 8 to 9 months after the surgery. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm just throwing together a potential scenario. And they're talking about how there's low density, and they're not happy with the outcome. And they just happen to show photos where their hair isn't styled, and it looks like they just got out of a wind tunnel after having not washed their hair for 3 days. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen those pictures where it's this strange comb job, where just hair sticking up, and it's clumping together because it literally looks like it hasn't been washed in a few days. And they're saying that it's not dense enough. Well, what the hell do you expect for 4,000 grafts, less than 1,000 grafts per Norwood level on a Norwood 5, and you're not actually trying to make your hair, you're actually trying to make your hair look worse by presenting these kinds of photos. What do you want out of this situation? Even if you have, say, twice that much hair, say 8,000 grafts put into Norwood 5A, you still can't brush your hair any way you want and expect it to look completely thick. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, that kind of sprung out of the point of question everything, good and bad. People have motives in many situations for presenting, their opinions or their observations or even their cases for better or for worse. So always keep that in mind whenever you are looking at results, reading commentary, so on and so forth. Let's see. Is he talking about me again? Always. Let's see. Let's look at some comments in the chat room. What did doctors say to each other that they don't say to patients? That's a good question. What do doctors say to each other that they don't say to patients? I got to think about that for a bit. Good question, though. Let's see. Hampton Hudson, how about this? The result from a superstar surgeon isn't a fantastic result. Don't you think there should be a refund? If I'm paying you based on what you've been, what's been advertised to me, no, I don't. I don't believe in refunds. I know it's controversial. I know some people don't think that that's the right approach to take. But if you've done your research properly, and you know that surgery is a gamble, then you're taking a risk. I really don't believe in refunds. I mean, there might be some exceptions to the rule. I've seen some where it's like, okay, that amount of scarring is just unacceptable. Nothing grew. Like, I mean, I've seen some really bad cases. It's like, okay, at least do something. That kind of makes sense. But I believe two things. It's two-sided, okay? So when patients are doing their research, if they're doing legitimate research to the point where they understand, they get it, that even the best of the best, supposedly, is still human. And things don't always work out. It's like if you go to if you go to most other doctors for some sort of procedure and it doesn't work out 100%, you don't ask for a refund. Like if your doctor prescribes you some medication for an ailment and it doesn't take care of your ailment, are you asking for a refund? No, you're not. So I kind of look at it like that. But at the same time, clinics need to be clear that there is no guarantee. They're not guaranteeing their results. They're guaranteeing that they'll give you the best effort they can. I'm very big on that. And I've talked to my clinics about that. And as far as I know, they're not doing that. They are saying, not in so many words, they might be changing the wording around a little bit, but they are saying that we guarantee our effort. Like, we will give you our best effort in whatever language that they want to put it in, not we guarantee that every graft will grow, that kind of thing. I don't believe in that. I actually sent out an email to all the clinics I work with, asking them to understand that and to make that clear. And I don't remember checking up on that recently, but I do check on my clinics to see, from time to time, to make sure that they're doing things on the up and up. But yeah, I don't believe in it on both sides. No promises, no guarantees, except for best effort, and no refunds. If you are going to, pay for something that you know is not a guarantee, then why should you get a refund? Unless it's some sort of extenuating circumstance. I think that keeps everything more transparent on both sides. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Interesting. Looking. Okay. Eugenics seems to have a mixed reputation. Not really. Dr. Kuto tends to showcase patients. Yeah. Is he talking about me? No. I don't see any questions here, people. Okay. Okay, Sergey. Hey, Sergey. Good to see you. One may be a poor responder to hair transplants because of genetic factors. No refund in that case. I'm going to tell you something about genetic factors influencing a hair transplant. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think that as long as everything looks good, good donor hair, there is no dermatological issues before surgery, and none develop after surgery, such as LPP, lichen planopilaris, or scarring alopecia, something like that. As long as there's nothing like that going on, I don't. It's hard to say it's genetic factors. There is this thing that doctors talk about called the X factor, where they just don't know what happened. Where they look at the notes, the chart of the patient, where they can see the notes of the surgery, and most clinics will actually have notes from the surgery if there's any sort of issues that were out of the ordinary. Blood pressure is normal, everything's fine. The patient unremarkable as far as bleeding goes. There's no popping. Incisions were nice and consistent, and all these things that they talk about. They'll look back in that, and it's like, there's nothing unremarkable here. There's nothing unusual here. So why didn't the grafts grow? Is it a genetic factor? I don't think it's a genetic factor. I think it's, I don't know. It's hard to determine, and that's why they call it the X factor, because they just don't know. And I can't say it's genetics. It could be just that type of procedure that the patient got. Like say it's a procedure where the grafts are a bit skinnier at this clinic than at a different clinic. Maybe they're just more fragile, more susceptible to trauma from being handled. Things like that. Could that be called genetic? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just, it's not definitive on that, how I feel about it, because I'm trying to determine what you mean by genetic, but it's difficult to say why some surgeries don't work out. Where you look at it, you're like, it should have gone fine. Like, you had your top people on it. There's no known issues with other patients before or after this particular patient that would indicate a pattern. So it's not a technician. I don't know. It's tough. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions. No calls. Had the one call from Gypsy. Always love hearing from him. And that's okay, people. You don't always have to call. But it does mean I'm going to sign off. So let's see. It is 4 o'clock. I've been on for an hour. 4:01, 4:02 actually. So let's I'll give it 2 minutes. 2 more minutes before I wind up hanging up or shutting down for the day. Tuesday, June 6, 2023. But yeah, so let's see. Joe, have you heard the insider initialism MGP? I don't know what you just asked me. I don't know what that means. Initialism MGP. I don't know what that is. Hampton Hudson, be happy to send in some before photos and video chat and sometime. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, send me. I'm trying to remember where you went. Forgive me for not remembering, but yeah, send me some photos if you want. Sarah, by genetic factors, I mean, as an example, you don't know your skin's ability to process high density of implantation. Okay, so that's all right. Thank you for the clarification. So in that kind of issue, the doctor should be able to tell, because when there's a few things that a doctor will look for. If they're experienced, they know what they're doing. So the first thing is when they're making the incision, any incision in the area that they want to do higher density implantation, they'll note the amount of bleeding that's going on. Does it look like the vascularity of that area is normal or even above average to above average, based on the just simple bleeding? Like, we cut him. How much is he bleeding? Is it just a little trickle, or is it a gusher? If it's the former, probably don't want to do it. If it's the latter, then you got to evaluate. Okay, so if we start implanting at in this patient at a high density, will that blood pressure and will the pressure of dense packing cause popping? Excuse me, cause popping or too much popping. That's something that they can observe during the procedure. So there's also the issue of tissue degradation from those incisions being too close together. If it's a bad genetic situation, then the connecting tissue in between those two incisions will just fall apart. It'll just break apart. It doesn't hold its integrity. And then you got a giant hole. So then you know not to dense pack. But then after the fact, even if everything looks good, we want to, look to see what kind of bruising we have in that recipient area after the surgery. And most clinics will document this if there's some sort of issue, if there's too much bruising, which is blood pooling in that specific area underneath the skin tissue, that can cause that can eventually lead to necrosis if it's not caught early enough and if it's severe enough. But even if it doesn't lead to necrosis, it can inhibit or postpone growth. So those, genetic factors for sure, but those are those are things that are observable, and they can deal with that during the procedure by making adjustments to their approach. So I get what you're saying. Thank you for the clarification. So 2 minutes is up, but I was just sent something by a friend. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, this doesn't really. Okay, this is something I can talk about maybe tomorrow. It's interesting. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Anand, for sending me that. If you're watching, that's interesting. Maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow, and how it relates to hair loss. We'll see. I'll see if I can make that connection to where I can talk about it. But that's actually kind of cool to look at. Okay, so where's my feed? There we go. Let's see. Yeah, no other questions. So I guess that's it. Everyone, thanks for watching. I do appreciate everyone tuning in as usual. I appreciate the likes. I could use some more likes, people. So show the algorithm that this is worth promoting randomly on the YouTubes by hitting the like button. Really appreciate all the support. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and ring the bell for all notifications if it's not rung already. I think it is by default now when you do subscribe. And let's see what else is going on. I'm trying to line up some more guests, both doctors I work with and researchers and people in the field that you may want to hear from. I got some feelers out there, and I'm working on some schedules with some people. So it doesn't always happen quickly, as it had in the beginning of this the journey that I'm on for these daily broadcasts. So anyway, I'm going to sign off. Everyone, thanks again for joining me. Tuesday, June 6th. I'm out of here. Take care.